I guess we're doing videos now. This is Deeper with Dani, because everything is that serious. Yeah, we got a new name too, because I feel like switching it up again. I'm not sure if this will be my final form, but we'll stay tuned. We'll stay tuned. We got a lot of catching up to do. Quite a lot. Yeah, before anything else, this video is sponsored by Studio 18. As of filming, I am in Cagayan de Oro for the first time. I'm attending a conference on generative AI and education, and tomorrow I'm going to present a research paper that I did for work where my co researchers and I explored the relationship of generative AI use and students' experiences with that technology. I'm glad that I found this Airbnb. It's a humble studio unit, good for 2 to 3 people. It's in the city. I love it here. It's very peaceful, aesthetically pleasing. So aesthetically pleasing that I've finally been inspired to get around to recording this episode, indulging my creative urges, even if this wasn't part of my itinerary for the weekend. Like it's that good here. I feel very at home. All their details are below in the description. Feel free to book them via Airbnb or contact them directly via Instagram. If you ever find yourself in CDO and you need a place to stay, highly recommend this place. On to the episode. Life updates. Let's start with life updates. What have I been up to? Why haven't I been using this platform like I had been telling you all these past few episodes? First of all, the shame. There's so much shame in saying, hey, we're so back. We're so back. Only to dip. I think I've spent the recent episodes, the recent recordings, or like the last uploads having this introduction of, hey, we're back, we're finally back. But like, I know deep down I couldn't commit, or I just severely underestimated how much I had on my plate. So this bad habit of, repeating the cycle has been so shameful. So I will admit that. But as I will explain later on, I have had a lot of realizations and chances to reflect on what I'd like to be creating as someone with a platform here. Since my last upload here, I have gotten so much busier at work, in school, and surprisingly, my social life. I am currently in my second year of graduate school. I'm having the time of my life, even if a lot of people consider my academic load this semester to be social suicide. So, for those of you who are free from the shackles of higher education and you're not interested at all in anything about getting a master's or anything like that, the norm in MA is most of you are working students. Grad studies, that's just a supplement to your daily routine. It's not supposed to be your whole world. And so it's very normal for graduate students to be part time students, and the load is significantly lesser than a full time graduate student, like a student, you know? But I realized in my first year of graduate school that 2 classes still gave me time to breathe. And I wasn't sure if it was because I actually could manage my time. I was really responsible with my multiple commitments, or if I was just living life on easy mode. There's something to be said about my skepticism toward life being easy, that I tend to seek out more difficult things. But I think that's for another episode. But what I'm trying to say here is that in my first year, I told myself, okay, I have to figure out if 6 units or 2 classes is my actual limit. Like, is this it? Like, is this my ceiling? It was a very popular opinion among peers in graduate school and professors that 6 units is a lot. Personally, I didn't feel its heaviness. I was excited, even despite some of the subjects being really difficult and challenging. And I told myself, okay, maybe I'll give it a year. If both semesters prove to be easy and manageable for me, I'll add one more class just so that I get to evaluate what I am capable of. I would rather learn that 9 units is a limit through my own experience rather than blindly trusting what other people say without acknowledging that their experiences cannot always be generalized to my own. It made sense to me. So I hope that that makes sense to you, because it makes sense. Anyway, Come second year, after my advising a few months ago before the semester started, I told my program advisor, hey, I'm ready. I can do one more. I can take on one more class. Can you just trust me? Because I have it all figured out. Lo and behold, 9 units is actually my limit. I don't regret having to learn that myself. I'm glad that I am learning it now through my own experiences than living vicariously through others. I don't know. I'm at a point in my life where I'd rather fuck around and find out myself so that I can determine how I feel about the situation and what I think about the situation without turning to other people right away. And more on that in a bit. Saturn return things. Yeah, that's mostly my life now. Graduate school is the center of my routine. While I'm very, very glad that the semester is about to end, I'm still considering taking 9 more units in the next semester because my work schedule changes, typically in the second sem. And I think I'll have more time, not just for work in school, but also for creative projects like these. Apart from that, I can honestly say that I now have a life offline. It's a very funny thing to be saying because I grew up on the internet. I was raised by the internet. My social life for a good chunk of my formative years and my early 20s has been the internet, social media. I scream into the void and that void screams back. But in the last year, this year especially, I've just been more offline. I find myself scrolling less on Twitter because the site has a lot of bugs at this point that it's so hard to scroll through it on my phone. And the desktop version is not that helpful either. And it's so full of fascists. The meme to fascist ratio on Twitter is ugly now. I don't think there are enough memes to make up for the dirt that Twitter has now become. So, apart from that, TikTok has revealed its ugly parts as well. And having been able to spend my time offline, it's recalibrated the way that I see myself, the things that I do, and how I view other people. That's the best explanation that I have for why I've not been able to produce meaningful videos here or podcast episodes. I think the most consistent platform where you can hear from me, apart from my IG stories, is my Substack, which I also feel bad about because I don't get to post as much anymore. Most of the things that I write are for school, but with recording this, I hope to make this a habit too because I can't keep ignoring these urges to create, to share what I think of the world, and to just make my presence be known. Not in a main character way, but more of in a I kind of want to change the world in a way, in my own silly little way. And I feel very drawn to the idea of communicating to people, sharing what I think, providing commentary, hot takes, they call it. Like I said, all this time spent offline has had me thinking a lot about these things. I think it's time that I admit how much I care about what other people think. I care about it now because I'm past this naive persona that a lot of young people embody, where they perform nonchalance. Like, I don't care. I don't care what other people think. Like, I'm cool like that. I'm the least nonchalant person you'll ever meet. I don't understand why I have to dim this part of myself. There are experiences that I've gone through in the first half of my 20s that I know changed the way that I would view this very passionate side of myself. I'm saying that I acknowledge the experiences that have made me feel ashamed of how passionate I feel about things. The internet and social media in particular. Social media has gotten so rabid that in the last year of going viral unintentionally and sharing my takes, people have gotten really reactive. And it forced me to take a step back and think of how much I want to be in the spotlight or how much this platform means to me. And if it means anything at all to me, how am I supposed to use it? Being overly self conscious sucks. I don't like it. It took me so many attempts to sit down and record this thing and set up this camera, this place. There have been so many videos that I had to delete because I just wasn't satisfied with how I looked or with what I was saying. I felt like I was saying so many filler words. I feel like editing stuff in post even would transform me into this blob of a person that feels very strange to me, feels very foreign. This is fighting that. Forcing myself to actually finish this and say my piece is a way to fight against that self-consciousness. I'm always going to be conscious of myself. I'm always going to be curious about the way that I think other people see me. And I think it's important that I accept that. What's not okay though is how it paralyzes me every now and then. The solution is to move, show up, and get over it. This is my way of getting over it. With that said, to overcome this ickiness that I feel about being in the spotlight, like just being aware that eyes are on me, that I am asking for people's attention, I now find myself wondering what it is that I want to be creating. I'm not in the visual arts. I'm not an artsy person in that sense. But what I do believe is that every individual, talented or not, should have a creative outlet to stay sane. And my creative outlet has always been words, whether in writing, in the spoken word. I have always felt like a human being whenever I engage with words. And I think people knowing me from my opinions, insights, hot takes, even despite the differences in opinion that people have about me, I still feel good for the most part. But the question is, what do I want to be creating with this particular skill, habit, activity? When I yap, when I talk, when I share my opinions, what is it that I want to say? That's it. That's what led to being MIA on this podcast and not really bothering to post at all. I created Therapy for Takeout, the blog, when I was really active in therapy. That was 2021. It was the height of my suicidality. I did not really want to live, and the very few reasons that I had to live were taken away from me in ways that I would never want to experience ever again. I was like 21 to 23. Most of these experiences that I went through that led to my suicidality happened during the pandemic. I have a lot of beef and unresolved issues because of the pandemic. But again, that's for another episode. I felt like my sessions, my 15-minute sessions with my therapist, were not enough. And so I needed a blog, an outlet to further analyze and make sense of the takeaways that I would get in therapy. I reached a consistency with Therapy for Takeout, the blog, that I wanted to use that as a title for my podcast too. But the last session that I had with my therapist was in 2023. I'm sorry, but I ghosted her. I kind of owe her one important story, one important lore, but I haven't gone back because I haven't felt the need to be supported by a mental health professional anymore. And how is this related to the podcast? Well, clearly, if I keep saying this is Therapy for Takeout, people are going to expect therapy related stuff here. And it's been such a long time since I shared anything related to therapy here. At most, or like the closest that I've been able to share here, are life lessons. And life lessons are not the same as the things and realizations that you obtain in therapy. So I spent a good chunk of this year wondering how I am supposed to transform this podcast. And I knew changing its name would help me get there. I settled for Deeper with Dani because this research paper that we're doing on generative AI has exposed me to great levels of anti-intellectualism that's depressing and dystopian. But it's such a strong reason to come back here and to use my platform to encourage people to dig deeper, to think more, to engage with historical events and social phenomena more critically so that we wouldn't be doomed. You know, that's what's motivated me to come back here. I do have to admit, though, that one of the reasons I laid low, besides everything that I've just shared so far, is that I've had interactions on social media that didn't feel good. And it's not goodness in a moral sense, but it didn't feel good in that it led me to questioning what I was doing with my time online. I've had interactions in the last year with people who reminded me of how reactive I can get. It's very strange how you're more likely to change the not so nice parts about yourself when you see it in other people. And that's what finally motivated me to take a step back and really examine, who have I become now? Do I like the way that I'm acting? If not, what needs to change? So that's why I've been quiet. Well, I haven't been totally quiet. I've been pretty active on Instagram, TikTok sometimes. If there's any place that I clout chase on these days, it's LinkedIn. Who have I become? But really, it's because I've been swamped with work and I just want to update my professional platform as much as possible. It helps with the CV. That aside, going back here to this podcast, to the platform that I have online, I need to be honest. I do want this platform. And I'm grateful for this platform that I've built since college, since high school, even. Sometimes I receive comments from people saying that they've known me since my One Direction days. And it's crazy to think of how many people have been with me without me knowing in my growing up on the internet. Even if, to an extent, I don't owe anyone anything, I think I do owe it to these people who have witnessed so many versions of me that I grow up and become a person that I can be proud of, that I can like and say, hey, I genuinely like who I am. And it's not to say I don't like myself now. I do like myself. I have had a much greater relationship with myself now compared to my early 20s when I was really in the trenches. I look at myself with loving eyes now. That's what I can say. Spent this year just reflecting on how I want to grow, and surprisingly, the urge to create online, to make meaningful things. I find this to be a meaningful thing. It never really went away. If anything, trying to set it aside only made the urge much stronger. And it's reached a point now where I can't help but film this so that I don't forget. I think I'm doing such a great disservice when I ignore this urge to indulge my creative cravings, for the lack of a better term. I find this to be a creative endeavor, just being able to talk and articulate what it is that I think of the world, because it takes great skill to be able to communicate exactly what it is that you want to say. And I think that the slowness of creating a podcast episode, especially that I'm a one woman team for now, this slowness is essential for me to revisit what I've just said and to dwell on how willing I am to stand by this, even by the time I finish editing this. To quote People Watching, one of my favorite shows ever, the speed dating episode, Jeremy says, sometimes the purpose of dating is not really to find somebody for you, but to just put yourself out there, hear yourself say certain things, and realize that you do agree with yourself. I think striving to agree with myself and to be aware and conscious of the things that I say, these are some of the ways I can cultivate a healthy relationship with myself and hopefully inspire other people to do the same. That's the core of today's episode. That I want to be more authentic, more true to myself, and I think that making a podcast is an art form that can help me achieve that. So moving forward, what can we expect on the pod? So I like that Deeper with Dani expands the scope of what I can possibly talk about. And I know you're probably wondering, couldn't you do that with Therapy for Takeout? Like, you could have just like kept the name. I don't know. I feel more drawn to changing the name first before switching things up. And hopefully, fingers crossed, I stay here for good. I think it's a matter of building the habit first of filming and recording and listing down what I want to talk about first. It's a whole process. It's a process. It's a process. I have to enjoy it. This is not a KPI that I need to reach. It's not quantity over quality. It's quality always. Moving forward, what can we expect? Well, social commentary, media criticism, video essays. Life lessons will still be there. If you guys want to send in your problems, my email is in the description. dearjusdani@gmail.com. And just digging deep, everything is that serious. I find that the prevalence of generative AI has affirmed my wokeness. Because, yeah, there was a point in time when I started to feel ashamed of being that one woke friend. But it turns out that is the solution to overcoming the brain rot that comes with being enslaved by ChatGPT or Gemini or Claude or Grok, whoever your Gen AI bias is. I don't know. Here's to hoping I become more consistent this time around. I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful. But in case it doesn't work out again, in case I fail, I'm always gonna try again. I'm the type to always try until I find a routine that works for me. Just to end my Saturn return. So while those of you are like strict science people who don't really believe in stuff that has no evidence according to science, I appreciate the mystery of life sometimes. I like to think that there are phenomena about the human experience, the human condition, that will be beyond our very human understanding of things. And sometimes astrology adds to that mystery. I've enjoyed talking about astrology. It's a fun conversation starter. It's also a good litmus test to see how seriously people approach these things. But yeah, your Saturn return happens between 27 to 32. I just turned 27 this year, and your Saturn return peaks at 29. So apparently, Saturn represents values, discipline, all that stuff. And in astrology, your Saturn return is when you actually come of age. Which, honestly, I think it makes sense because people at 21 are like children at this point. You have to consider how the pandemic emotionally stunted so many of us. My Saturn return is affecting my 10th or 11th house, I forget, but it's something about community and partnership and reputation. All these things that I've just talked about on this episode are things that I am still mulling over, reflecting on, and hopefully this podcast is one way of achieving whatever it is that I need to achieve to ensure the success of my Saturn return or like the shift to my 30s. I'm excited to grow old. I'm excited to be much hotter in my 30s, to be so much better than I am now. I'm excited for Dani in her 30s to look at me with loving eyes because I look at my past selves with the same kind of fondness. That's all I have to say. So, hopefully, you liked this episode. I actually did enjoy recording this, despite all the qualms that I have about not being able to get around to recording this right away. Share it with your friends if you'd like. I'll try to keep the podcast Instagram active too so that you can repost stuff. Feel free to tag me on my personal IG or the podcast IG, whichever you prefer. Tell a friend about it. If you have suggestions, comment them. I'd love to hear what you think. If you want me to dissect certain things on this platform, let me know. And I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for being here.